Hi, my name is Nathaniel Taylor, and I work in the Academic Advising Office for the Psychology Department. Today I'm going to be talking about undergraduate research in psychology here at Texas Tech University. First off, why is research experience important? There are a number of reasons. First, it helps you understand what it would be like to be a graduate student. It can kind of give you some exposure to what the graduate school life and mentality is so that you'll be better prepared to engage in graduate school work, should you so desire. Another important reason why research experience is important is because you begin to acquire relationships with professors who can begin to write letters of recommendation for you when you apply for graduate programs or jobs. Finally, many graduate programs do require that you have a substantial amount of research experience. So in order to make yourself a strong candidate, it's important to get involved in as much research as possible at the undergraduate level. One of the questions we often get in the advising office is, when should one begin working in a research lab? While there's no perfect answer to this, probably the best that I can come up with is as soon as you possibly can. Although some labs will require that you've taken research methods or statistics before you apply. Probably the best way to go about finding the requirements of a specific lab is to email the professor of the lab you're interested in and ask them what requirements must be fulfilled before you can work within their lab. Typically undergraduates will work within a single lab for around a year. Although if you enjoy work within that lab, there might be options to stay on longer than that. In how many labs would it be good to acquire experience, especially if you're looking to apply to graduate school? Well, preferably you should work in around 3 different labs for at least a year each. This will give you a wide exposure to a lot of different work with a number of different professors and put you in a good position for strong letters of recommendation from the typically 3 professors that are required. If you're interested in clinical and counseling psychology, you shouldn't worry about avoiding research outside of those divisions. It's always good to gain exposure to as many different theoretical orientations and ideas as you can within psychology to make you a more well-rounded candidate. As I mentioned before, there are sometimes prerequisites before you can work within a research lab. Again, please email the professor who you're interested in working with, and he or she will fill you in on the requirements. One of the best ways to select which research lab you want to work in is go to the psychology department website, look at the faculty pages, and see what types of research these faculty members are doing. If you are interested in their specific area of research, then again you may email them and see if they have any openings within their labs. Some labs prefer that you begin in spring if you would like to start working, but others are more flexible. Some will allow you to work for 1 semester or require that you work for a full year. It's very important to go to the TTU Psychology webpage, go to the undergraduate program link, click on Overview, and then find the names of the faculty in red. Then you can follow the procedures for applying to work in that specific lab. What are some good tips for applying to a lab? Probably one of the best is to put forth professionalism within your emails and your correspondences with the professors who you're interested in working with. This includes using proper grammar and demonstrating some basic knowledge of the research that they're taking part in right now. Also, make sure that you have completed all of your application requirements, such as minimum GPA, and you fulfilled the required coursework that they specify. Sci 4000 is the specific class or course title for research with a professor in an undergraduate research context. After you have been accepted to work in a lab, you need to contact the supervising professor to get permission to be enrolled. If you'd like to enroll for variable amounts of credit, such as 3 credits, oftentimes this 3 credit hours will equate to around 10 hours of lab work per week. It's important to be sure that you know the number of credit hours that you're going to be applying for and apply for them correctly by registering as you would for any other class. One of the questions we often get is, will you receive a letter grade in Sci 4000 or is it graded pass-fail? You'll generally receive a letter grade, and probably the best way to learn about the grading criterion that your professors have is simply to ask them within the appropriate context. One of the questions we often get regarding working with Sci 4000 is, how long am I required to stay with a particular research lab? This will vary from lab to lab, but typically professors prefer that you stay on for a year. What are some of the typical duties that you'll have as a research assistant? Well, oftentimes you'll be required to make copies or locate journal articles, construct PDFs, assist with data collection, and attend lab meetings with the graduate students and supervising professor of that lab. Although some of these tasks may seem menial, it's important to remember that you're gaining exposure to what it's like to work with graduate students and professionals in an academic context. One of the questions we often receive are, what are the qualities of outstanding research assistants? Well, a research assistant is punctual. They'll tell their supervisor or their graduate students that they'll be late when they are going to be late, or when they're not going to be able to finish a project in an allotted time. They're organized. They're often self-motivated and diligent. Because Research Assistant Sci 4000 is over and above the typical coursework required for the psychology major, it's important that research assistants be self-motivated and driven and able to complete tasks in a timely manner. Outstanding RIs are also focused, and they're appropriately communicative. Finally, they exhibit professional behavior, and they're respectful to their supervising professor and graduate students who they work with on a daily basis.